Okay, in this lesson, I'm going to introduce the concept of linear functions. And to do that, I'm going to give you an example of a word problem that represents linear functions. So here's the example. Okay, so in this problem, let's read this together. The school store sells book covers for $2 each and notebooks for $1. Tony has $5 to spend. The function y equals 5 minus 2x represents the number of book covers, x, and notebooks, y, she can buy. Graph the function, interpret the points graphed. Okay, so a lot of information, a lot is going on here. And what I normally do with word problems, and I would recommend that you do the same, is when you read through it the first time, read through it at a minimum speed without really focusing in on the details, but just kind of get a general gist of the problem. Okay, so as we read through that the first time, we know it has something to do with book covers and notebooks. It's giving us functions, and we basically need to graph the function and interpret the points graphed. Okay, so with that as your backdrop, let's read this problem again, but we're going to do this much slower. Okay, and as we read through it, we're going to try to digest some more of this detail. So here we go. The school store sells book covers for $2 each and notebooks for $1. Okay, so we're going to pause there for a second. So we have a school store and they sell two different things, book covers and notebooks, and we're given the price of each of those. Now we're introduced to the next sentence, and that is Tony has $5 to spend. Okay, that's all she has, $5. And then the next sentence says the function y equals 5 minus 2x represents the number of book covers, x, and notebooks, y, she can buy. Okay, so book covers is x, notebooks is y. And then there's some sort of relationship, and that relationship is represented by the function y equals 5 minus 2x. Okay, now we need to graph the function and interpret the points. So how do we do this? The first thing we do is make a chart. And the chart will look something like this. Okay, so we know that x represents the book covers and notebooks represents y. So if we don't buy any book covers, and we're going to write that here, 0 book covers, how many notebooks can we purchase? Well, 5 minus 2 times 0, because x is 0, that gives us a result of 3. Okay, 0 book covers allows us to buy 3 notebooks. 1 book cover allows us to buy 3 notebooks. Okay, and I calculated this wrong, the first one. Hopefully you guys caught that. So when we buy 0 book covers, we can actually purchase 5 notebooks. Okay, because 5 minus 2 times 0, which is 0, is 5. Now if we buy 2 book covers, we can afford to buy 5 minus 4 is 1 notebook. And if we buy 3 book covers, how many notebooks can we buy? Well, 5 minus 2 times 3 is 6, so 5 minus 6 is negative 1. Interesting. So let's see what we do next. We need to graph the function, so let's do that. Actually, let's move this down here. Okay, so the first point we plot is 0, 5, right? Because we have 0 under the x with a corresponding 5 under the y. So the first point we're going to plot is 0, 5, which is right up here. Okay, 0, 5. Then the next point is 1, 3, which is right here. 1, 3. And we get 1, 3 from the graph, from the chart that we just wrote. Under the x column we have 1, and if we move to the right, under the y column is 3. Okay, that's where we get our points. And then the next coordinate or point is 2, 1, which is right here. 2, 1. And then the next point is 3, negative 1, which is right here. Okay. So if we were to plot this or graph it, it would look like this. It's a straight line. Okay. Now, what is interesting is that the last coordinate, 3, negative 1, tells us that if we buy 3 book covers, we can afford to buy negative 1 notebooks. That's really odd, right? So here's how we fulfill the second part of the word problem, which is interpret the points graphed. When you think about this, you can't have a negative purchase of a notebook. Okay, you can only have whole numbers. You can only purchase whole numbers of book covers and whole numbers of notebooks. So what this means is you cannot purchase more than 2 book covers because you only have $5, or Tony has only $5 to spend. So once she spends money on 2 book covers, that's going to cost her $4. I'm sorry, yeah, $4, which means she has only $1 left. She can buy 1 notebook. But if she can't afford to buy 3 book covers because each one costs $2 and she would need $6. That's why we get a negative 1. So the answer to interpreting the points graphed is Tony can purchase at most 2 book covers and 1 notebook. Okay, so what we've drawn is a line, and that line is also called a linear function. Okay. All right, let's try another problem, except this time we're going to omit word problems and we're going to just go straight to a linear function. And here's what I mean. Let's suppose we have the following function, y equals x plus 2. Okay, and we need to graph this. So to graph this, we need to identify x and y values. Okay, so we're going to create a chart of x, and then we're going to call this x plus 2, and then this one is y. Okay, and we're going to just throw in some values of x. I'm going to say 0, 1, 2, and 3. When we have 0, and we plug it into the equation x plus 2, we get 0 plus 2, which is equal to 2. Okay. When x is 1, we're going to plug that into the equation again of x plus 2. We get 1 plus 2, and that gives us 3. When x is 2, we're going to plug that into the equation, and we get 2 plus 2, and y is now 4. When x is 3, and we plug that into the equation, we get 3 plus 2, and y is equal to 5. So now we're going to graph this. So here's a chart or a graph line, and I should probably should have explained that the horizontal line is your x-axis, and the vertical line is your y. Okay, x-axis will pertain to your x coordinate, and then your y-axis, which is the vertical line, will pertain to your y coordinate. So if we plot the points, the first one is called 0, 2, okay, and that's right here, 0, 2, because we got 0 for x, 2 for y. The next coordinate is 1, 3, 2, 4, and 3, 5. Okay, so this is where we plug in the x into the equation, and we get a value of y to get your y value. So let's go ahead and plot this. 0, 2 is right here. 1, 3 is over here. 2, 4 is right there. And 3, 5 is right here. And when we graph or connect the dots, we get this. Okay, so let's label these points so that you see them clearer. This is 0, 2, 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 5. Okay, you notice that this is a straight line, and that's why it's called a linear function. Okay, so now that you know what a linear function is, let me go ahead and define it. A linear function is a function in which the graph of the solutions form a straight line. Therefore, an equation of the form y equals mx plus b is a linear function. Okay, so I only introduced this not to confuse you, but to bring in a new equation called y equals mx plus b. Okay, there is more to this equation than has been introduced to you. And I'm not going to go into the details of that in this lesson, but I wanted to define this formula of a linear function and also define this in words. Okay, if I had introduced this definition to you in the beginning, it would have been completely foreign to you. And even at this point, it might still seem a little complicated, but hopefully you begin to understand that a linear function is basically a function that when you graph the points, right, or when the graph of the solutions, it basically forms a straight line. So when you have a straight line, that's called a linear function, okay? And linear functions will have an equation in the form of y equals mx plus b. So, for example, this is a linear function. Y equals 2x plus 1. Okay? That's in the form of y equals mx plus b. Y equals 3x is also a linear function because what's missing here is plus 0. Okay? And this is also a linear function. Y is equal to 1/4 x minus 4. Okay? That's also in the form of mx plus b. In this case, b is a negative. Okay? So whenever you see an equation in this form, y equals some m times x plus some other number, that is called a linear function. Okay, I think that should be it for now. If any of this was confusing or not clear to you, please go back and play the video again. Thank you.